Good evening, my name is Joe Butkowitz, and I'm here to introduce our next inductee, Alan K. Stout. If you're a consumer of entertainment news in the last 30 years, then you know who Alan K. Stout is. If you're not aware, Alan was a writer and columnist at the Times Leader. He was often voted the favorite newspaper columnist in the 90s and the 2000s. His column was called Music on the Menu. It was in the Times Leader and later in the Weekender, and he transitioned into a radio show in 2004, which is still on the air. He's interviewed countless stars, by his count, 40 members of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I think it's those are exciting and fun, but as important as Alan was an advocate and supporter of local musicians. Badleys, Mere Mortals, Breaking Benjamin, and he got behind all those bands and he helped them along. Alan believed in he had a why not attitude sometimes, but he saw an opportunity for a concert for Karen as a memorial event, and that became Concert for a Cause. And they were just tremendous events that got a lot of excitement from audiences and raised a lot of money. He's helped arrange the Rockin' on the River shows and Rockin' the Mountain. He's done a documentary, helped create a documentary about Tropical Storm Agnes. He's just done a lot of things as an arts and entertainment journalist. And there are a lot of well-known and respected journalists that covered that over the years. David Yonkai's in the audience, Rich Chizak, Jerry Kishbaugh, Joe Middleton. Did great work, but Alan's done it a long time and done a lot of different things, and it's pretty impressive. What you likely don't know is what it's like to work with Alan, because once upon a time I worked at the Times Leader too, and I was Alan's assignment editor for a good part of that time when we worked together. I always wanted to make that guide section, that tab section that was in Friday's Times Leader, and for a long time that was just a great thing. But I'd kind of given up on the idea, and Alan is the one that resurrected it and said, why don't we do that? And we pushed it again and got it done. And really, Alan was the one that said, why can't we do this? So he had that why not attitude. And he took that into how he approached reporting as a journalist. He's curious, he's honest, he's sincere, and he delivers, and that's really important, because if we're just joking, I said, Alan, I need a 15-inch store with a 5-inch sidebar and a go box, and you need it by this time. You're gonna get it, and he always delivered. If anything, he overpromised and underpromised and over-delivered. And famously, he's interviewing Billy Joel, and in the background, you can hear some piano playing, and what is that, he's asking. He goes off his questions. He says, well, that's my daughter. She's getting piano lessons from some other piano instructor. And he's like, wow. And he just went with that, and he got a great story, and he certainly got off the phone and said, hey, Chief, this is what we're going to push that one. So bigger than even Billy Joel. He communicated. He understood what he did was for an audience. And I would always preach, do it for the reader, and he understood that. Newspapering is very complicated, but it's also very simple. You deliver entertaining content. That's the secret sauce. Alan did that. Alan does that. And in my opinion, he deserves this recognition. Alan Stout.
Wow. Thank you, Joe, and thank you to the Luzerne County Arts and Entertainment Hall of Fame for this incredible honor. All the words that you think might describe how this might feel, honored, flattered, humbled, overwhelmed, are exactly how I feel. I'm truly honored to be here tonight, and I'd like to congratulate all of the inductees from the class of 2025 and those from 2023 and 2024. I'm truly honored to be in your company. We've all been asked to say a few words here tonight, and what I'd like to do in the time that I have is not really talk very much about my 33 years in arts and entertainment, but rather thank the people that helped me on my journey. Everything is a team. Everything is teamwork. And sometimes that team, even though you don't even realize it, might be starting when you're just, running around the house as a little boy. And I would love very much to thank my late grandfather, Joe, for being the first one really to turn me on to the beauty of music. Listening to Elvis Presley records with my grandfather in his parlor on his beautiful Flora-style stereo, which was basically a piece of furniture, it had a great impact on my life. He was very serious about his music. He loved that stereo. He loved his records. And my grandfather and I, we did not watch much television. We listened to music all the time. Thank you, Grandpa.
Oh, that was nice.
To my parents, to my dad who's here tonight, and to my late mother, who I so wish was here, but I know that she is. When I was a teenager, music was my life, probably to a fault. And my parents were okay with that. Back in the 80s, long before we had an amphitheater, or we had Montage or an arena in Wilkes-Barre, you had to go out of town to see your favorite bands. In 1982, I asked my parents if they would take me to see this band called The Who at the old JFK Stadium in Philadelphia. And they agreed to do it. They dropped me and a buddy of mine off in front of the stadium before the show while they spent the day in the city. And they picked me up a few hours later. And when they picked me up, I was not the same person. There were 100,000 people at that show. And the music, it brought a sense of communion amongst those people like nothing I'd ever seen. That day changed my life. It was my first concert, and it was the first time I truly experienced the power and the beauty of rock and roll. Over the next few years, until I got old enough to drive myself, my parents would shuttle me and my friends off to New York or Allentown and other shows. And whether it was getting me to a show or buying me a music magazine that I wanted or letting me overplaster my bedroom with rock posters, they always supported my love for music, and that's a major part of the reason I'm here tonight. So thank you, Mom, and thank you, Dad. In 1992, I expressed an interest in writing about music, or music journalism. The Times Leader gave me that opportunity, and once they did it, I ran with it, and in some ways, some might say I still haven't stopped. I want to thank Paul Gallagher, who hired me as a music correspondent and gave me my music on the menu column and named it. Mary Truce Beeble, who gave me my first full-time job in the newsroom. Chris Ritchie, who gave me the opportunity to be a features writer. And of course, Joe Buckowitz, who was my greatest mentor in journalism. The 8 years that I worked for him were my favorite years at the Times Leader and the Weekender. So thank you, Chief, for all of your support and for being here tonight. It means the world to me. Thank you so much. To Lynn Carey, not only did she own the coolest rock club in town, but she also published her own music magazine called Soundcheck. In 1983, she asked me to write for that magazine. I was still very young at that time. I had not written for the Times Leader very long. And through that magazine, more readers and more musicians immediately became more familiar with my work. I had the opportunity to further and hone my craft, and Soundcheck had a very important impact on my life. Thank you, Lynn. To my old band Charisma, who most of you never heard of, but gave me the opportunity at 19 or 20 years old to experience the joy of recording original music. And to my best and my dear friend Joe Warren, who is here tonight. Joe took me under his wing back in the 80s at WRKC, Radio King's College. He had his own show, and I often sat in with him, mostly because I think he wanted me to put the records away and file them alphabetically after the show, but he let me hang around. But even though we were just a small college station and we didn't think any artist was too big for us to try to get an interview with. And we landed some big interviews with some of rock's biggest bands when we were 17, 18 years old. Always think big. I learned that from Joe, and I took that approach with me to the Times Leader. Thank you, Joe. Thank you to Jim Rising for giving me my own radio show 21 years ago on the mountain, and Dave Stewart, who produced the show for many years, and to everyone at 105 The River. I've been there now for 12 years, and I want to thank them for allowing me to keep local music on the radio every Sunday night. Thank you, Vince Benedetto, Michael G. Stanton, Paul Ceraberto, Bobby V. the Duke, Lobo, our producer, D.C. Taylor, my padre in the studio. I'm so proud to call Bold Gold Media and 105 The River my home base for music still every single Sunday night. Thank you to Mitch Cornfield and the old gang from the Woodlands. For 10 years, the Woodlands was our home for Concert for a Cause, an event which they pretty much just let us take over the entire complex. Thank you for that, Mitch, and to Richie Kothis and Gene Smith and everyone at Rock Street Music, Times Leader, The Weekender, Gallery of Sound, 97.9X, Hot 97, and more than anything, all the great bands that made Concert for Care and Concert for a Cause absolutely the greatest thing I've ever been a part of that we all started together. That event was all about teamwork. It was all about caring. It was all about love. And everyone on the CFC team, please know I will always love you. Thank you to KISS. In the 80s, when I was a teenager, KISS often wrote about the concept of individuality and believing in yourself. And when it came to life, their motto was, go for it. As a teen, that had an incredibly positive impact on my life. But also later as a journalist, I learned from KISS that if you're going to do something, go big. And still to this day, I feel as though if you're going to do something, that's the only way to do it. I'd also like to thank you too, and Bruce Springsteen, for showing me that rock and roll can be extremely thoughtful and poignant. And I want to thank Van Halen and AC/DC for showing me that rock and roll can also be great without being thoughtful and poignant. And thank you to Elvis Presley and the Beatles for changing everything. None of us involved with rock and roll or music of that type, pop music, would be here tonight if it were not for them. Thank you to the Badleys. In 1993, while at the newspaper, I received an album called The Unfortunate Result of Spare Time. That album changed the way I thought about everything when it came to local music and how I covered it for the next 20 years. It was just as good as anything I'd ever heard before. And about a year and a half later, when the band dropped River Songs, I heard an album was better than just about anything I'd ever heard before. And they were from right here in Pennsylvania, and Northeast Pennsylvania was a part of their home base. Writing about the Badleys that time was absolutely the most exciting thing I'd ever written about. It was magic, and they were the best band I'd ever written about. Thank you to the Badleys for your friendship and through all those articles and radio specials, allowing me to step into your world and hopefully bring others into your world. Thank you to Bob Savakinis, Tim Novotny, and Tony Brooks for helping make my dream of the Agnes documentary a reality. And thank you to the thousands of people that have continued to support that film over the years. Thank you to Luzerne County, former county manager Dave Pedri, current county manager Romilda Crocamo, who through my work at Visit Luzerne County have entrusted me to oversee our wonderful Rock on the River music series. I love every aspect of what I get to do with the Visitors Bureau, especially public relations, PR, marketing. But those 3 nights are my favorite 3 nights of the year, except for Christmas Eve. And they should not be, they would not be possible without our incredible Rock on the River committee and team. Like everything good that I've ever been blessed to be a part of, it's always been about teamwork. Thank you, Ted Wampel, Will Beekman, the entire Rock on the River team, county council, and our great team at the Visitors Bureau. I want to thank every single band and every artist that ever called me up at the newspaper or reached out to me in any way and asked me that I might write about them. I want to thank every single band or artist that ever sent me their music and asked me to consider playing it on the radio. I want to thank every single band and every artist that ever performed at one of the events that I helped put together. Whether it was Concert for a Cause, or Music on the Menu Live, or Rock on the River, it seems as though whenever I wrote about a band, or I played them on the radio, or I worked with them on an event, they thanked me. I thank you. This is our music scene, and we're all in this together. And I couldn't have done anything without letting the musicians from this community bring me into their lives and allow me to help showcase what they do. I want to thank my family so much for being here tonight. Thank you, Dad, Marianne, AJ, Tavi, Susan, Matt, John, Joe. I love you all very much, and I thank you for your support. That means the world to me that you're all here. And lastly, and most importantly, I want to thank my readers, my listeners, and my supporters. Thank you for reading my articles and my columns, listening to my show, and coming to the events that I've worked on. It means more to me than you'll ever know. I mean that so much. Thank you again for this incredible honor. And please know that I'm not quite ready to ride off into the sunset. For me, God's music is one of its greatest gifts, It doesn't matter if you're alone in your car, cruising down the highway, listening to a song that truly connects with you in a magical way, or if you're singing along to an anthem with 100,000 people in a stadium. Music can truly awaken your soul. There is nothing quite like it. And I want to thank you through that gift of music for allowing me to just be a small part of your lives. And I promise there will be more stories to tell, more great songs to play on the radio, and more live events. So if you're all still with me,